Stock charts are a type of chart that serves a very specific purpose. In this case, visualizing stock market data. That can include volume, high, low, open, and closing prices. So pretty straightforward examples here. You could look at something like Facebook's daily stock performance in 2015 or high, low, and closing prices for Google in Q1. Basically, anything related to a stock's performance can be visualized with a stock chart. So 2 pro tips here. This is a good opportunity to manually set your axis minimum and sometimes maximum values to enhance the readability. It will default to minimums of 0, which sometimes creates a chart that's a bit tough to read. Second pro tip, which is one that's really helpful not just for stock charts, is that you can actually switch your x-axis type from date to text to eliminate gaps when markets are closed. So by default, you'll see blank spaces on Saturdays and Sundays because there's no market activity. By changing from a date to a text axis, we can eliminate those. So let's head on over to our Excel workbook and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay, so here in the Stock Charts tab, as you can see, I've got daily trading volume for Apple stock, got trading volume, got open, high, low, and close prices. So those are the 5 elements that make up a stock chart. And if I go into the Insert menu here, they actually live with waterfalls and funnels right here. And there are 4 different types that get increasingly more complicated. It starts with just high, low, close. Those are the only 3 inputs. Then you've got open, high, low, close, volume, high, low, close, and finally volume, open, high, low, close. Now what's important to keep in mind with stock charts is that they're a bit finicky and you have to feed it exactly the data that it's looking for in order to spit out the chart that you need. So in this case, I have all 5 elements in the exact order that Excel expects them to be: volume, open, high, low, close. So I can select column B all the way through column G, go into my Insert menu, and as you can see, if I hover over these first 3 types, nothing populates. Even though the elements that I need are included within the 5 that I've selected, it won't populate a chart until I choose the correct one, which in this case is volume, open, high, low, close. So let's go ahead and insert that chart and expand it so that it's a bit more readable. And as you can see, we're going to need to do a little bit of formatting on this to make it more user-friendly, starting with the chart title. So let's say Apple stock trending, make it nice and bold. We need some axis titles, so I'll go into my chart elements. We'll make a primary vertical. This is my volume axis. We'll make that bold as well. And then I'm also going to need a secondary vertical axis. This is my price axis. And as you can see, because I entered a specific stock chart, Excel knows to put the price-related information on that secondary axis. So now, as you can see, my primary Y makes sense. The scale kind of fits the columns pretty well. But my secondary Y-axis, my price axis, really could use a minimum to make this more readable. So why don't we set the minimum to 80? And when I do that, you can see that spreads out nicely so that it's much more readable. Now I can actually see the movement of the price over this time range. Next up, let's go ahead and edit our x-axis. So I'm going to right-click and format. One of the nice kind of hidden gems here, all the way at the bottom, is this number option. This allows me to change exactly how I'm showing these x-axis labels. In this case, I'm going to show them as a date, but instead of day, month, year, I just want the day and the month. I already know that I'm looking at 2016 data, so I don't need the year there. And I'll just shrink this down a little bit. And now the pro tip that I mentioned, you see how there's these 2 gaps for Saturdays and Sundays when the market's closed? To account for that, I can format the axis, and instead of automatically selecting based on data, I can change that to a text axis. That way Excel doesn't know that I'm particularly looking at dates. It just sees an x-axis label called 41, 44, 45, 46, etc., and plots them sequentially. Last but not least, we've got this legend here. I don't know if this is an Excel bug or what, but the legend really doesn't help us at all. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And finally, we've got something that's nice and readable, and we can talk about what this actually means. So volume, represented by columns, that shows the trading volume on any given day. On top of that, you've got this almost like a box and whisker style visualization happening, and this shows you a number of different data points. Just like a box and whisker, those vertical lines extend from the minimum and maximum prices for that given day. What the box shows you is the difference between the open and close price. So if the box is white or unfilled, that means that the stock started low and closed up. If the box is black or filled, it means it started at the top and closed down. So that's your basic primer on interpreting or understanding exactly what these chart types are telling you. Now again, if I wanted to change this chart type, let's say I wanted to use something a bit more simple, Excel won't let me just simply change over, even though, again, I have the components that I need. So it says arrange the data in this order. It's very, very specific, much more specific than other types of charts in Excel. So I can hit OK. And really the approach here is to choose what kind of chart you want to show. For instance, if I want an open, high, low, close chart, I would select the date and then open, high, low, close. I'm control clicking to grab those extra columns. And now if I insert, you can see once I get to that particular chart type that's associated with the data that I have selected, only then will it populate a chart. So similar case, if I wanted a volume high, low, close chart, I would choose date, volume, high, low, close, and then I can go ahead and insert that type of chart as well. So as you can see, stock charts can be a little bit tricky to work with, but I'd recommend just pulling in all of the metrics you need. Grab the volume data, grab the open, high, low, and close prices. That way you can start with the most complex chart and pare down as need be. So there you go, stock charts in Excel.